Okay, just open the agenda again. All right, welcome everybody. Before we start, I'll go through our preamble. Meetings of the ARPA Individual and Family Engagement Committee are public meetings as defined by the Connecticut Freedom of Information Act. As it's held virtually, it'll be recorded and made available on the DDS website. Committee members must make a good faith effort to state their name and title. I'm Greg McMahon from DDS. If applicable, each time they speak during the meeting. If a committee member would like to speak, please raise your hand and one of the co-chairs will acknowledge you. There's no public comment portion of the meeting. Members of the public are able to join, watch, and listen only. And our first order of business today is to hopefully you've had a chance to review the minutes. Is there any additions, deletions, comments on the minutes? Adriana has her hand up.
I'm sorry. I think I'm having technical difficulty because I went on the website and where it says minutes, when I click on it, it keeps opening the agenda. So I don't know if anybody else has tried it. Has it worked for them?
I had the same thing.
Yeah, it's only the agenda. There's no minutes anywhere. And I think that's why, Shannon, you thought you sent the minutes, but if you look the way the link is printed, it's the agenda. So I just wanted to let you guys know. I thought it was just me. I was like, I can't access it anywhere.
This is Shannon Jacovino, DDS. I'm Bud's person. What I can do is send an email with the written agenda that I had submitted, and maybe we can put that at the end, or I don't know how you want to handle that, Greg. Do we want to try to put that at the end and give people some time after we get through everything to just take a look through?
Yeah, that would probably be the best way. So we can table that for now. You should all get a copy of it. We'll take 5 minutes to let everybody read them, and go from there. Shannon will be working on that in the meantime. We can move on to our next agenda item, which is future of individual and family engagement committee. Our future. As I think was probably said when the committee, all of 5 working committees in and around STEP started, that was going to be to kind of move us through the STEP process. We are starting a communication out to folks that the STEP meeting process is reaching its end for all of the committees. At the end of this year. In some cases, some committees are already probably going to close business because they've done the work that was expected of them through STEP. And I think our committee as well, as it comes specifically to STEP, this committee has been fantastic in giving feedback and input that has vastly improved communication. And I think we've done a very good job with STEP. So the communication that's being put out is saying that all committees will end, including our own. But Shannon and I have been talking quite a bit about that, and feel like this committee has done such good work, and the work that we do certainly has gone beyond STEP in how we're communicating with people. And we think it's important that there's continue to be input from individuals and families through a committee process. So the plan is in its infancy to reestablish or establish a new committee, I guess, of individuals and families to continue to look at the work we're doing, how we're communicating with families as it relates to anything else doing with STEP, but in general for communication from the department to individuals and families. While we are formally ending, we are looking to try and continue to have a committee. That committee can include folks who are here, and we may look at other people as well to expand our reach. All that's really up in the air at this point because this communication is just happening now. But we anticipate as the new year rolls around that a committee will be put together with the plan being that both Shannon and Dr. Ellis will co-chair that committee because their roles within the department are very pivotal in how we communicate to individuals and families. So they're very logical folks to take on that responsibility. So there'll be more to come in terms from either from Shannon, me, and Dr. Ellis in how we're going to move forward with that. And we'll be reaching out to you as we get a little closer to determine if you'd like to continue on or whether you want to move on to something else. So all that will be coming out in the next couple of months. But I don't know if Shannon or Dr. Ellis, if you have anything you want to add to that. And Lauren has been involved a bit in that communication. So Lauren, if you have anything else to jump in on before we move on.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of the really good feedback this committee has given us. You've been such a good resource, and I'm excited for that work to continue.
Yes.
This is Lauren Gray from DDS. I'm sorry.
Okay. Again, and I echo those thanks. It's been a pleasure to work with this committee, and we still have a couple meetings to go before we're formally done with that initial process. So I'll be around a bit longer. And on a sort of similar vein, it didn't quite land on the agenda, but Gunnar Abrahamson is attending today's meeting. And we'd like to introduce him because, as I think I mentioned last time or the time before, as Peter Mason and Keith Lavalette and I begin to fade out from our work at the department, Gunnar is been given the job of replacing all three of us and leading the ARPA initiative. So I'd like to introduce Gunnar. Gunnar, if you'd like to introduce yourself, I'll let people know a little bit about you. That would be great.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gunnar Abrahamson. For those of you who do not know me, I've been with the department for a little over 2 years now. As Greg mentioned, I have the unique opportunity to train alongside himself, Keith Lavalette, and our former Deputy Commissioner, Peter Mason, until their eventual retirements in December and March of 2024. So as Greg said, I have some really big shoes to fill. Just kind of doing the training now and getting up to speed on ARPA and its effects on our agency and its effects on initiatives like the Supporting Transformation to Empower People, or STEP initiative. So super excited to be on the call today, and I appreciate Greg bringing me in. Happy to answer any questions if anyone has any. So thank you.
Well, this is Greg McMahon from DDS. Yeah, welcome, Gunnar. I can say he he started in August, but then was on military leave for a bit. So he's really just diving in to the deep end. But it's already going very well, very capable. And I think it's going to be a good transition. So thank you, Gunnar.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. First of all, I just want to say it's just such great news to know that Gunnar is going to be transitioning into this role. I'm very happy about that. I also wanted to let you know that I cannot locate the minutes right now. Adriana took the minutes for the last meeting and I forwarded them in an email. So I can't find them while I'm in the meeting. So I don't know if it's possible for us, Greg, to send them out prior to the next meeting and approve them at that meeting. I don't know if that's something we're able to do.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay.
I may have them in an email from you if I can dig them up, but I may have a hard time doing that and doing this at the same time.
That's the issue I'm having right now is I can't take minutes and look for the old minutes.
All right, so unless somehow we magically produce the minutes in the next couple of minutes, we will table that for the next meeting. Next is Greg McMahon from DDS. Next on our agenda are updates from Lauren. Bear with us a little bit. Lauren is on by phone and has asked Shannon to share various things on the screen. So there might be a little bit of a confusion around getting the right thing at the right time. Lauren.
Okay, this is Lauren Gray from DDS, and I am on the road this morning. I don't know how many of you know this, so I'm currently a little bit over 4.5 months pregnant. So I'm on the way to the hospital for one of my scans. But I do think it's really important to join this meeting. So I'm still happy to be here and share a couple of important updates. Yes, very exciting. I see all the smiles. Thank you, everybody, for the smiles. I appreciate it. So thank you, Shannon, for helping me share the screen to share some of the resources. So tomorrow we have the STEP video series launching. We're debuting the first in the video series, Individualized Home Supports. We will be launching that in both English and Spanish on our website and our social media, and through our email platform. So we're very excited to share that starting tomorrow, and would love it if you would reshare it with your friends, family, networks, and help us get out there. We'll be highlighting the IHS video all week, and then for the following weeks, we'll be debuting community companion homes, CCH, also known as CCH, and then supportive housing, and then self-direction. So we are very excited to launch these videos. They're extremely touching, and just a really good snippet of what these core STEP supports offers. So we'll be sharing those around tomorrow when they are live. So stay tuned. Second, we sent out and mailed out the STEP fall newsletter with a lot of information and news about our fall events, a transportation survey, information about AT&Me, and just a lot of really good information in the STEP newsletter. Shannon, I sent you the link for that if you don't mind adding that in the chat. This was mailed out to all homes of individuals and families that DDS supports. And again, it was sent out in our monthly email newsletter. So I hope you received it. We'll also continue sharing it because it has a lot of really great resources. So I hope you all got that. And then third, on my items, that was the last newsletter we are going to physically mail out to homes. Right now, due to budget constraints that we have that are coming up, but we are going to continue the monthly e-newsletter communication. This will go out every month, and we definitely encourage you to sign up and encourage others to sign up. It's not going to be weekly or anything like that, but it really is going to be our monthly communication, and we'll continue to email it out and post it on our social media. And if there's any budget ever available, we'll definitely do another mailing, because I know that's a valuable resource, but we will have the monthly e-newsletter communication still going out. Any questions about that? I don't see anybody's hand raised, but if you do have any questions about that, definitely email me, but it is available right there. STEP newsletter, September 2023, in English and in Spanish, right here on the STEP website. I can't see the chat, so if you have any questions, definitely raise your hand or just say, Lauren, pause. Two other things I wanted to let everybody know about. We know this, this is a really big transition and communication effort around STEP, and case managers have done a really good job attending some of our trainings and all of our, resourceful sessions and informational sessions that we've been going and hosting. but starting this month, we are going to have a monthly office hour where case managers can join and ask questions about STEP and STEP resources as they're talking about STEP and the supports with individuals and families and providers. So we are going to start that case manager monthly office hour as a resource for case managers to bring their questions, ideas, and feedback that they're receiving.
Lauren, this is Shannon Giacovino, DDSM Buds person. I see that Kevin Arce has his hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Shannon. I just wanted to ask about the STEP training itself. I've been to a few of the STEP trainings, and I just want to. This is just out of curiosity's sake, but when I was in the STEP training, I noticed that those who attended who were not leading the meeting could not, like, do what I did now, raise their hand, ask questions. Is that going to change in the future STEP meetings, or is this something out of curiosity's sake? Because we could have asked questions in the chat, but as you can tell from our years working here, they can get buried in the comments. With your questions. I'm just curious.
Yeah, Kevin, this is Lauren Gray from DDS. And we have used different platforms where you could raise your hand or not raise your hand. And
Yeah.
on every single training that I've been on, and I think it's been at least 15 trainings, we've done a really good job of going back to the beginning of the chat and answering every single question that was in the chat. And if we missed something, encouraging people to come, on camera or raise their hand or just speak up. And we'll continue
That's
to
the
do
thing.
that.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that at the time, at least in the trains that I've been in STEP, I couldn't even unmute myself. At least those were my experiences, the STEP trains that I've been in. So I don't know if that'll be different from now on. It's just something that I'm curious about. That's all.
Yeah, this is Lauren Gray from DDS. This is the first time I'm hearing that feedback.
Yeah.
Owen, I don't know if Owen is still on. I don't know which platform we were using that you couldn't unmute, but again, at the beginning of every training, we go over the usability and the functionality of the different platforms, and we always encourage you to put a problem that you're having in the chat.
Okay.
Or raise your hand or email us, and we we'll always try to directly answer your question. But Owen, have you heard of anybody having trouble unmuting in any of our sessions?
Yeah, this is Owen Shum from Deloitte. And Kevin, I think the issue might be that on the bigger meetings where we have like hundreds of people participating, we don't allow, we don't let people unmute themselves. But if you raise your hand, and someone from our team will then unmute you and you can ask your question. So that's generally how we handle it.
Yeah, this is Governor Arce, software coordinator. I'm just curious because, like, not all the STEP trains are like that, but many of them were. And while it was okay, like, we could just listen, and it just felt like again, the audience could have done a lot more. But I do understand the concept. Like, a lot of people are in the same time in the same meeting, and I can understand. It's just just something I wasn't used to. That's all.
This is Owen Shum, Deloitte. Thanks for your feedback, Kevin. We'll definitely make it easier in the future and make
It
sure
wasn't
that folks
harder
know
per
how to raise their
se.
hand.
Sorry. It was sorry. I'm sorry. I'm bad at This is Kevin Arce, software coordinator. It wasn't bad per se. It's just unusual, if that makes sense. Because DDS is always about self-advocacy and speaking up. And while I understand that everyone has their voice per se to speak up, it's just something that I wasn't used to. That's all.
This is Shannon Giacovino, DDSM Buds person. So maybe we just need to make sure that in the beginning we're being clear and maybe give perhaps the directions more than once during the meeting so that people, and then in the chat, Adriana has also said that she's been in meetings where they've asked attendees to put QQ before a question when they're putting a question in the chat. And I guess that would make it easier for people who are scanning the chat to identify what's a question versus a comment.
This is Owen Shum, Deloitte. I think those are all good suggestions, and we will take those back.
Conversations.
Thank you. And thank you, Owen, for helping with that because Deloitte has been a really good partner. And I know on the session we had 240 people. We did have to keep muting everyone because people did try to keep coming off mute. But we can definitely reiterate the instructions and the functionality for each of the platforms you're using. Thank you for that. Last but not least, I did want to communicate about one last item that we are working on. The only 6 months that I've been here, which is crazy. I and other, oh shoot. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We over the last 6 months, I and other committee members and other committees have given feedback that STEP is really great, and they're really glad to see all of these efforts from DDS. But they would like to see people with more significant or more comprehensive needs be featured in some of our STEP items, or have us talk about how STEP supports those with more significant or comprehensive needs. So we are working on those communication items for that specific ask, because I do think that's important, and it's an ask that we keep getting over and over. So more communication items, including a fact sheet and maybe a video or two, but definitely some more social media posts, inclusion in our newsletter. A fact sheet will be coming about how STEP supports those with more comprehensive needs. And if you have any questions about that, please let me know. And I know Shannon was just screen sharing the very last item that I had, which was, please continue to sign up for our email updates and our texting platform so that we can continue to reach people. Right now, these are going to be our main sources of communication besides our social media, are the monthly DDS e-newsletter, quarterly text messages, and our social media. So all of this will be found on our website. And last but not least, the very first committee to know, since this was just decided this morning, our Instagram page is launching today. As we launch our STEP video series, we have done paid advertising on Facebook, Google, and Instagram for our STEP initiative and our STEP video series that is coming. And so our Instagram launches today to help us reach even more people on another platform, since every platform has different audiences and different reaches. So our DDS Instagram will be launching today. We'll add it to our website and communicate that throughout the week as well.
And this is Greg McMahon from DDS. I'm curious if members of this committee have successfully signed on for texts. I know that we went through and Shannon changed based on our input, kind of adapted the instructions. So I see Adriana has. Have other people been able to be successful in getting into the texting? Or anybody have a problem? I got probably the better way of asking, getting into the texting application process. Adriana, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network and relative. I was probably one of the first ones that signed up, because Lauren, when she announced it that day while we were in the meeting, I was signing up and I saw some things. So I don't know if there's anything changed, but I'd be curious to know if there's a way to like test it to see if like some that have connected, what it would look like, and kind of see what it receives. Or I'm sure you guys have tested it, but I was just curious. I always like testing. Thank you.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. Lauren, have there been any texts sent yet?
This is Lauren Gray from DDS. We have not sent any texts yet, but we are going to try. And you're right, Adriana, we do want to test this, and we're going to test it out this week with our STEP video series launch. So we're hoping to get our first text out on Wednesday or Thursday after we debut the information online. Manager of our system has been out for a couple of weeks after major surgery. surgery. So we have not been able to get into the platform on the management, on the content management side until today. And so that was just a little bit delayed in our texting efforts. But we are hoping to get our first one out on Wednesday or Thursday of this week. So would love your feedback.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. Thank you. Look forward to seeing the first text. Is there anything else for Lauren? Questions? Any other items you want to bring to her attention before we move on to Deloitte? All right. Oh, Adriana, you have your hand up.
Hi, Adriana Ramirez, Connected Family Support Network relative. It's more of a comment. I just wanted to say what a great job Lauren has been doing, taking feedback from everyone and how everything is looking, and really love the way everything's just flowing and the ideas. And I think families will really start to enjoy the communication and the process. And to the committee as well for echoing, I think what we're all feeling is it's great that we're setting up plans with all the different committees, but it's kind of like you want to stay connected to keep monitoring that, not maybe meet as often, but I'm glad to hear that they're continuing it, because everything when it starts off well, you start a ship moving in a certain direction. It's nice to check the course every once in a while with the stakeholders and see that we're still on course, especially if things change, because they're always flowing and adapting. So thank you to Lauren and everyone else. It looks really great.
This is Lauren Gray from DDS. I just want to say thank you so much for that feedback. It means so much to me. And I really enjoyed working with this committee in a new role at a new job. I've needed a lot of help, and your feedback and input has been so valuable to me. And I just really appreciate the partnership that we have. And I'm also glad that this committee will continue in a new way. And thank you so much to everyone again for all of your feedback as we have launched so many new things.
Okay, this is Greg McMahon from DDS. We can move on now to Deloitte, and Owen, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Owen from Deloitte. And we just wanted to share a couple of updates. I know it's been a couple of sessions since you all have heard from us, but we especially wanted to spend some time on the approved step plans that we have gotten thus far and share actually the names of those specific agencies with this group, which I know has been a request in the past. So I'm going to share my screen. Is everyone able to see?
Yes.
Okay, great.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. You may be able to make that a little bigger. It might be helpful.
Okay. All right. So Owen Shum, Deloitte again. But what we have here is a breakdown of the agencies that have submitted and had their step plans approved by DDS. There are still 2 plans at the bottom that are not labeled here that are going through the approval process right now, but we've still showed the scope of those plans in terms of the number of individuals that they are planning to transition, because we feel good about where they're at right now. But as you can see, we have pretty good representation across the 3 regions in DDS in column C here. So from the North, South, and West regions, and then a good diversity of folks focusing on day and employment transformations, as well as residential transformations, and even a couple of agencies like Ability Beyond that have folks transitioning both on the employment side and on the residential side. So we're really excited about our progress thus far. What we have at the bottom here are the targets that DDS laid out for the number of individuals that we're hoping will transition throughout the course of STEP. And for day employment, we have 200 benchmark, and for residential 100. And so as you can see, we're about 40% of the way to each of those targets for both day employment and residential. So I think this is the first time that we've shared the names of these agencies with you all. And as you can see, the scope of some of these plans varies. So some of these larger agencies are able to transition more individuals. Like Midstate has 25 individuals working through day and employment transitions. But on the whole, very excited about the participation that we've had so far, and about, especially as you'll see in columns E and G, the individuals that have already started the transition process and have moved into new settings. So we look forward to seeing continued progress as providers implement their plans and ultimately get individuals in supports that help them grow their independence. And I see we have a hand up for Cheryl, Dr. Ellis.
Hi, thank you, Owen. This is great to see. Cheryl Ellis, Director of DEI, DDS. I love the fact that you have good representation across the regions. I'm curious to know if we're collecting any other data in regards to age of individuals, gender, anything other demographic information or any other information that we're collecting regarding the individuals who are transitioning?
This is Owen Schoen from Deloitte. That's a great question, Dr. Ellis. Greg and Lauren, I don't have information specific to the plans. I know a lot of that has been kept anonymous for Deloitte, but is that something that we're collecting and that we would plan to share at some point?
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. I'm not sure we are. I would have to go back and take a look at whether the forms ask that. In many cases here, in the numbers of people planning to move, we don't. Some of them are not yet known to us. The agencies, when they submit a plan, don't necessarily tell us who yet. But it's more of a global plan on how they're going to transform their agency. But we do know some. So it may be that I can reach out and see whether or not we ask questions that relate to that. And my recollection is we don't. So we might have to go back and do that. But we don't even know who everybody is quite yet. So we have incomplete data at this point. And I see Adriana, you have a question, comment? And also if somebody has a mic on, if they could, that has some background noise. Okay, go ahead, Adriana.
Sure. Good morning again, Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network relative. And I just had two questions, and you may not know this, but for the plans, the people that are listed when they say day individuals planning to move, residential individuals planning to move, is this the providers saying that they've identified people and those people have agreed? Or is it, so it's both sides have said, yes, we're interested and we're going to move forward together?
Yeah, this is Owen Schoen, Deloitte. Exactly. So this is a very collaborative process, and that's something we've emphasized from the very beginning, is that individuals should not be listed in these transformational plans if they are personally not on board, their support teams are not on board. So if a provider has identified a specific individual, that is a mutual agreement. So we've been very cognizant to make this as person-centered as possible.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And then part two is, I was just curious, what is the time frame from planning to move to moving? From when they move one column to the other, where it's a target, but it's now definitive and the target has been met. Thank you.
This is Owen Schoen, Deloitte. So I think the actual transition timeline is very dependent on the individual and kind of how far along they are with transition planning and how comfortable they feel about being in the new support. I think we consider an individual to have successfully transitioned after they've remained in the new support for at least 90 days. And then there are still conversations ongoing after that to check in and make sure that things are still appropriate. But that's generally the line that we use is 90 days in the new support.
Thank you.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. This grid, kind of the full grid, includes individual or agency level incentive dollars, which we thought was sort of agency budget issues. So we didn't post them here per agency, but to let you know that the incentives that will be going out to agencies at this point, based on where we are, if everybody successfully moves, is upwards of over $20 million of incentives going to the agencies. We're hoping other agencies, and we'll get more plans moving forward when they realize that this is really not only a benefit to the individuals being supported, but to the agencies themselves. So it's a sizable amount of incentive dollars going out to agencies who are transforming their agencies. And hopefully that will continue to grow.
Owen Shum, Deloitte. And on that note, Greg, I also just wanted to share a brief update. So our team has been providing technical assistance to providers that have already submitted plans that are approved, and then also providers that have expressed interest in participating in STEP. And so over the month of August, we went through a couple of promotional campaigns to drive interest in joining these sessions and actually work with our team directly to start the transformation planning process. So we've definitely seen an uptick in interest from providers in the last month. We've had more than 5 one-on-one sessions with provider agencies, and then also we host weekly office hours, which have been improving steadily in attendance. And then we also have scheduled multiple sessions for September and later. So we're very excited about participation, and we've seen, following the trainings, clear growth and interest. So we're feeling good in the months ahead about bringing on more providers.
Yeah, this is Greg McMahon from DDS, just to kind of give you a sense that to be approved, we don't, just in case there's an issue with approving a plan, that's why we don't put the name of the agency on there yet. Figure it's better once they're approved to do that. But those last two to be approved, I think, came in, Owen, within the last 2 weeks. It's pretty recent. We still are seeing pretty recent growth. There was a little lull, I think, as we moved from one phase to another, but people are becoming more and more engaged as we move. And Adriana, you have your hand up?
Hi, sorry. One last quick question, Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network, relative. I was just curious that you mentioned TA, technical assistance. Have you seen a theme of providers, any barriers or challenges they're having, or it's just understanding the transition and the process?
Owen Shum, Deloitte. That's a great question. We have it's a wide spectrum of how far along providers are in the planning process, if they're familiar with STEP at all. So we've had lots of sessions that are very much basic training on what the initiative is and how they could possibly fit in. We have providers that are approved and certified to provide DDS services, but have not started yet. And so they're thinking through, are there partnerships available with existing providers that they can leverage? And then we have folks that are very far along that have already spoken to individuals and families and understand that they have people that are really excited about transitioning and want to push forward with this. So we've had questions around implementation, communication, and then also just very early stage planning and how the financial incentive piece of this works as well. So all across the board.
Thank you, Owen. Adriana, I thought of another quick question just out of curiosity. You mentioned some may know or not know about STEP. I'd be curious if that sounds interesting to me. Just assume everyone knows about STEP by now, especially on the provider side when you have incentives. Is there data that's being kept to see if there's been full communication to providers, making sure everyone's aware of it, or they're not aware of it? Why aren't they aware of it? Because if you see it with providers, I can only imagine potentially what's happening with families if providers aren't even knowing what STEP is potentially. Thank you.
Owen Shum, Deloitte. So Lauren has talked about this a lot as well, but there has been significant outreach to providers. So this has been in front of most folks, and whether or not they had had opportunity to join some of the training sessions and things like that depends on the agency. But we have certainly kept track of engagement and seeing when we have providers coming back for multiple sessions. We track when someone signs up for technical assistance, if they have participated in any of the trainings or anything like that. And generally, we look at how folks heard about STEP. So it's a little bit more difficult to track why someone may have missed a message, but we have been doing our best to understand where they're hearing about it, when they heard about it, things like that, and how effective some of the campaigns have been.
Thank you.
This is Greg McMahon. Shannon, you have your hand up, but I think you're muted.
I was. This is Shannon Jacovino, DDS Ombuds person. The other thing, Adriana, is where I think
Oh, this is Greg McMahon from
yeah,
DDS.
this
I'm
is
not
Shannon.
hearing you, Shannon.
Yeah, this is Shannon Jacovino, DDS Ombuds person. For some reason, my mic kept getting muted after I was unmuting it. So, Adriana, prior to STEP, unlike I think communications with families, where I think we have been able to help make significant improvements, communications between DDS and providers, I think were much more well established, for obvious reasons, because DDS needs to be in regular communication with providers about a lot of different things. So there are like regular communications that go out, and DDS meets with the Providers Association on a regular basis. And so I think that those types of communications were already in place. To a great extent, even prior to STEP, although I'm sure they've been improved since STEP has occurred. Greg, you're muted.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. Like you, Shannon, I was being muted. I'm not, people don't want us to talk, I think. We talk too much. But Lauren is dropping off the call to get to her appointment. But she did put in the chat that we had sent out a couple weeks ago a survey to all agencies to ask for their familiarity and understanding of STEP, to get some feedback on that, which I think will help us. My sense is that most agencies has heard of it. Some are more engaged than others. So those who may seem to not understand it or know a little about it, have not been too interested in it at this point. But I think over time we're getting more and more interest, and they're seeing the success of it. So hopefully it will continue to grow in that way. Owen, do you have anything else or other topics?
Owen Shum, Deloitte. That was everything I had.
Okay, this is Greg McMahon from DDS. Any other questions of Owen and the Deloitte team? Okay. Our next agenda item is just updates and topics for future meetings. I think the updates have been pretty well covered through the various topics of the agenda so far today. Are there anything that people want to talk about for future meetings? Anything to add to our agendas, comments, or any other general information people need?
This is Kevin RSA, Software Coordinator. As for topics, maybe the next one could be one of the topics could be about, how do I say this, like how like services from DDS, like, the wait list, things like that. If that's possible, maybe more information on it.
This is Greg McMahon from DDS. Kevin, by wait list, what are you thinking? Just an
Well, I
update
mean,
of
like how do I say, like the process, like what exactly is the wait list? How long do you have to wait until you get out? Things like that. Like the concept basically, because there's a lot of people out there who are still on the wait list, but maybe they don't know what it is, or how you say, or what they need to do in the meantime, or how they can or when they can finally be included in services from DDS after the wait list is out, things like that. Again, just an idea.
Okay, this is Greg McMahon from DDS. Adriana?
Hi, Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network and Relative. And I was thinking the same thing because I've been in some threads and conversations, and I think it would be good to have a topic about any waitlist that DDS has, not, specifically just saying these are the waitlists that we have, these are the categories, because I'm seeing families a little frustrated because I think they're getting, based on what they're saying is they're getting messages where a year or two ago they'll talk to somebody and supposedly in DDS and say, oh, or in the school system, oh, when it's time you won't have any trouble, and they say when it comes time they hear about a wait list and everything else. So there's this frustration because maybe the clarity isn't there and understanding. And when people say wait list, they never say what wait list or what exactly, just like Greg, you asked what wait list. So I think it would be good to get ahead of it and say, okay, these are the wait lists that we have in DDS. So that way it's directly from DDS. Because sometimes, we hear different things, and whether it's on our end hearing it differently in our head or it's someone giving us different information. So there's no pointing fingers. It's just I'm seeing those conversations quite a bit lately. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Greg McMahon from DDS. As it relates to STEP, there has been, I know, some confusion. I'm not sure it's a majority, but I think the idea that STEP is out there and there's this money, and people are thinking, oh, great, STEP means I'm off the wait list. And while the two can be connected, they're not directly connected. And I think that's one of the things that I think may have been a little confusing to families. And we have been giving case managers that information to share with families. Is the group thinking we should have a sort of explanation of the wait list for this committee, or that it's something we ought to work on to create communication for families, or both?
Hi, this is Cheryl Ellis, Director DEI. I would vote for both.
Okay, that sounds good. The Greg McMahon from DDS. We can work on that. Probably need to find our best content expert to explain waiting lists for us. We can add that to our next agenda meeting. And then I do think it's important, I'm just thinking, the idea of we've been doing all these one pagers that we've written as clearly as possible, and maybe that's a good one pager with a backup of more information as needed, but something that is fairly straightforward might be something to consider, and we can bring that to Lauren's attention as well.
This is Shannon Jacobino, DDS Ombudsperson. Adriana has her hand raised.
Hi, sorry, I promise, I think this will be the last thing, but you mentioned different things. Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network Relative. So I was just thinking when you were talking about the one pager or creating communication for family and for this committee to understand the wait list, I think, so we're not creating so many things. I think whatever's created for families would be great to directly share with the case managers as almost like what we call in marketing like a swipe file. It's already written for families. So versus the DDS not only understanding your internal portion of a wait list, like for your function, sharing what we create for families, so that way they have easy talking topics sometimes. And I'm sure that's already happening, but I just wanted to bring it up because that way it's the case managers know how to say it or what to say, or just forward that information to them, and not trying to, you know, explain it in a way maybe they may confuse someone or they may confuse themselves. Not that it happens, I'm just saying sometimes we can cross over some of the communication efforts and not duplicate potentially. But I agree that it would be great, because I sometimes have trouble understanding, because you don't know which wait list, and you talk to somebody else and there is no wait list, and you talk to somebody else, so there is a wait list. So it is, I'll be honest, it is very confusing. So I would really appreciate, not only as a relative, but as a community member, and advocating for families, and, you know, advocating for the work that DDS does as well, to really have that clear picture of, when we're talking about different wait lists, really identifying what that looks like. Are there wait lists? There aren't any, because you do hear both things, and it may just be talking about two separate areas. But thank you.
This is Shanna Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Lena has her hand raised.
Yes, Lena Esposito, Connecticut Family Support Network. I have a question for Owen. It's about the transition. I know that he put over there in the chart that the individuals that are transition from one facility to the residential. But I want to know how many of the people they've been transitioned from home that to these new residential places.
Owen Shum, Deloitte. I can share that document one more time.
Sure.
And so Lena, was your question was how many people have transitioned from there? So these residential transitions are primarily from a congregate setting, so a CLA or a CRS, to an individualized support. So almost all of these people that are transitioning are moving to receive IHS either in a clustered setting or a supportive living program or something like that. So there's not a facility on the transition end.
Then my question is that if somebody doesn't live in a setting that if they just want to go there to these the new residential places, can they, how many of the individuals can they apply and go there?
So this is Shannon Jacobino, DDS ombudsperson. Oh, and I think maybe we can help answer the question. So the purpose of the STEP so far, and the funding from ARPA, Lena, has been to move people out of congregate settings into more independent community-based settings. People who receive supports from DDS can request supports in any type of setting. But the way that it works is, if you want those supports, you make that request, and there's usually funding attached to that. So you have to, not just make a request for a setting, but make a request for the funding. And that's where I think the sort of concept of a waiting list gets confusing, because there might be people who have some residential funding, there might be people who don't have any residential funding. But if you're making a request for a particular kind of support, you're also making a request for the funding for that support. And if the funding is not available, then you're not going to get that support right now necessarily. So you can start to, create a plan that moves people towards that support, helps them to develop maybe the skills that they need and all that. But, making a request for a support doesn't necessarily mean that support is going to be, their funding for that support is going to be available. Does that make sense? And Greg, is there anything that you can add to that if I haven't explained that well?
Yeah, this is Craig McPam from DDS. Essentially, the grid that Owen presented is measuring those who receive incentives. Meaning they're, as Shannon said, they're living in a group home and they move to a IHS or another independent living. There's one CCH included in those numbers. There's some people on their own in an apartment, some in clusters. But that's what that represents. We still have people who may be moving into similar settings, but if they're not in a congregate setting, they're not shown on that grid. They're people sort of moving in the normal course of business, perhaps off the waiting list, or perhaps just changing settings within agencies or across agencies. But they're not represented in those numbers because these numbers are strictly for the STEP incentives. Did we cover that? Did we to get to the answer you were looking for, or Lena?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And this is Greg McBain from DDS. Thank you, Kevin, for the input and for future agenda item. I appreciate it. And are there any other discussion or future topics or future meetings? Okay. Our next meeting is scheduled for October 2nd. We'll be in touch to assure we have an agenda, a meaningful agenda for you. And Shannon will send out the next communications for that meeting. And if there's nothing else, we can have a motion to adjourn.
Adriana Ramirez, Connecticut Family Support Network relative, motion to adjourn.
Anybody second? Joanne, thank you. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Want to stay on and talk more?
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great week.